In this world, some people appear as radiant as the moon in the dark of night. They arrive with an aura that captivates, a confidence so alluring it easily sways others. Their words are as soft as silk. Every sentence, every word seems carefully measured to be persuasive and enchanting. They carry themselves as the center of the universe, the focal point of every gaze, the inspiration behind every conversation. But the light they emit does not truly belong to them. It is merely a reflection borrowed from those around them, a radiance they've taken from others to illuminate themselves. Beneath that seemingly perfect exterior lies an empty, fragile self, heavily dependent on admiration. This is the essence of a narcissist, someone who lives on praise but crumbles the moment that admiration disappears. They wear masks of exaggerated confidence, success, and power to conceal deep insecurity within. Control and manipulation are their tools for maintaining this illusion. They reshape the truth, distort memories, and even reverse the roles of victim and perpetrator, all to keep their grip on the narrative of a relationship. Identifying someone like this is no easy task. They don't attack openly, but disguise themselves with sweetness, conditional care, and compliments that serve a purpose. If you try to expose them, they won't resist in obvious ways. Instead, they'll use words to mislead you, making you doubt your own emotions. They can make you believe that you are the one who's too sensitive, overreacting, or too demanding. Conversations with them feel like swimming in a seemingly calm river, beneath which hide cold, violent undercurrents, pulling you along without your awareness. So, how do we see the true person behind that polished facade? How do we cut through the illusion they've created? Sometimes, it doesn't take a heated argument or confrontation. Just one question, but the right question, is enough to crack that mask. A simple question, yet powerful. It carries no attack, no anger. It comes from clarity and intelligence, like a clear mirror, forcing the narcissist to face what they've always avoided, the truth about themselves. However, before we can arrive at that question, we must first understand the psychology and mechanics of a narcissist's behavior. Only when we grasp how they craft their illusions can we stop being swept away by them, and, more importantly, learn how to protect ourselves from their deadly charm. The nature of a narcissist: a starving ego in the shadows. Zen Buddhism has a cryptic teaching. A person who builds a house of illusions must constantly repair its walls, for reality will always try to break them. Though brief, this quote perfectly captures the fragile and insecure inner world of a narcissist, someone who does not live by truth, but by a fabricated image they work tirelessly to maintain every single day. A narcissist does not see themselves through honest eyes. They cannot face their true self, the wounds, the flaws, the deep-seated fears. Instead, they construct an idealized version of the self: intelligent, superior, charming, talented, a perfectly packaged persona designed to elicit admiration from others. But all of it is just a mask built on expectations and self-defense. And to keep that mask intact, they must constantly manipulate reality, control relationships, and bend the truth. The deeper drive behind their actions is not mere ambition, but an insatiable hunger, an obsession with being recognized, the center, and being right. Other people's admiration is the only sedative that can temporarily soothe their inner anxiety. Yet, ironically, that sedative is never enough. No matter how many compliments they receive, or how much recognition they gain, they remain hollow inside. Like a person dying of thirst drinking seawater, the more they drink, the thirstier they become. The more they seek praise, the more isolated and incomplete they feel. They control, dominate, and manipulate not out of strength, but because they are too weak to let others see their true nature. Anger, blame, and evasion of responsibility are the tools they use to protect their carefully crafted image. For them, admitting fault is not just a failure. It threatens to collapse the entire fantasy world they've built. That's why they avoid honest conversations, dismiss others' feelings, and use cold rationality to invalidate the pain they cause. You will often see them appear kind, generous, and wise, especially in front of others. However, kindness does not come from compassion. It is a strategy to uphold their ideal image. When no one is watching, or when they are challenged, the mask falls. Then, you'll witness the coldness, the disdain, and sometimes even hostile rage rooted in the fear of being exposed. That is precisely why there is one thing they can never do: truthfully answer a simple yet powerful question. Because to answer it, they would have to look directly at themselves, a prospect more terrifying than anything else. It's not that they don't understand the truth. They cannot bear the pain of confronting it. Deep down, they know their facade is fragile, and even the slightest crack could bring everything they've built crashing down instantly. Narcissism is not a sign of great self-esteem, but a silent scream from an ego that has never been healed. Only by understanding can we stop being wounded by them and learn to protect ourselves from the vortex of their illusions. The powerful question. A mirror, reflecting the true self. And now, we arrive at the most crucial part. A moment that may seem quiet, yet carries the force of an unseen storm. It is the moment you ask a question, not to attack, not to win, and not to provoke further argument. This question doesn't require elaborate explanations, nor do you need to appear wise or strong. Yet it holds the power to strip away every disguise, to shatter every manipulation, and to compel the other person to face themselves. That question is, what do you get out of this? Short, seemingly ordinary. But if asked at the right time, during an emotionally charged conversation or when the truth is distorted, it resounds like a bell tolling in an empty hall. Its echo spreads across the space, slips into the mind's dark corners, and stirs the deepest layers of the soul. For someone sincere, this question opens the door to self-reflection. They may pause, reconsider, and truly look into their purpose and their motivations. Sometimes, this question helps them realize they're reacting from fear, pain, or misunderstanding. And through that, healing becomes possible. But for a narcissist, it is a threat. This question offers no place to hide. It isn't an accusation, so they can't deflect with blame. It isn't a criticism, so they can't turn you into the villain. And because it's so simple, they cannot mask it with flowery words or complex reasoning. At that moment, their mask, held together by defense and manipulation, starts to tremble, even crack. What do you get out of this? It sounds like a casual inquiry, but it is, in truth, an unyielding mirror. It forces the listener to confront the true intention behind their actions. For the narcissist, it's like being made to gaze into the void within, the place where a fragile ego, deep insecurity, and invisible hunger have long been buried. This question is not exactly a weapon, it is a light. But for those who have grown accustomed to living in the darkness of deception, that light can be startling, even terrifying. And sometimes, with just that one gentle question, you may achieve what hundreds of arguments never could. Compel them to face themselves, if only for a fleeting moment. When the mask begins to crack, the moment truth speaks. In a bustling market at the heart of the city, where the vibrant hum of buyers and sellers blended with the fragrant scent of fruits, spices, and toasted bread, an old man sat quietly at the edge. He spoke little and never preached. People called him the observer, a wise man who lived in silence and deep insight. Every day he sat there, watching life unfold like an endless stream. Merchants rushing about, weary travelers passing through, children laughing and chasing one another through clouds of dusty wind. Amid the crowd stood out a man who exuded power and confidence, walking as if the path should part before his every step. Everyone in the market knew of him, a man renowned for his eloquent speeches and seemingly noble deeds. He spoke often of morality, kindness, and service to the community. He helped the poor, but only in front of witnesses. He gave public speeches, but his eyes always searched the crowd for reactions. His words rang out like bells of wisdom, yet those who listened couldn't help but sense something carefully calculated behind them. One day, a young traveler arrived at the market. He sought truth, not through books, but through lived experience. He had heard of the wise man and hoped to find answers to the questions still clouding his heart. Approaching the old man sitting beneath an ancient tree, he bowed gently and asked, "How can I tell the difference between truth and illusion? Between someone who lives for what's real and someone who lives only to be admired?" The wise man looked at him with soft eyes and smiled as if he had heard this question long ago. "Truth," he said, "does not need to be declared, does not seek reward, and is not shaken by attention. But the illusion is different. It needs admiration to survive, applause to feel worthy, and always looks for something in return, no matter how small." At that moment, the well-known man walked by and overheard the conversation. He stopped and stepped forward with a confident smile, like a speaker ready to take the stage. "I believe," he said in a deep, clear voice, "that truth depends on perspective. I've helped countless people, given without expectation, and offered guidance with all my heart. If you seek wisdom, perhaps you should listen to me. I am living proof of what one person can do for the community." The traveler tilted his head, slightly puzzled. The words made sense, but something in the tone rang of performance. He turned to the wise man and asked quietly, "How can I know if he's truly sincere?" The wise man, still smiling, said nothing more. He simply replied, "Very simple. Just ask him. What do you get out of this?" The traveler turned, calm and composed, and asked the question. It was like a small stone dropped into a seemingly still pond. The air suddenly grew heavy. The man paused, just for a moment. A flicker of confusion crossed his eyes, so quick it almost went unnoticed. Then he swiftly regained his composure. "I get nothing," he replied with certainty. "I do it out of duty, out of love for humanity, because I believe in knowledge and sharing." The wise man remained silent, but his eyes followed the man like one reading an open book. The traveler, now no longer just listening, but seeing, noticed the slight tension in the man's face, the restless tug at his sleeve, and above all, the avoidance in his gaze after speaking. In that fleeting moment, the mask had cracked, and the traveler felt something that reason alone could not explain. This was not the truth. He smiled, bowed gratefully to the wise man, and quietly walked away. The powerful man, though still trying to appear composed, quickly departed, returning to his usual acts, where he remained the central figure in the performance he had orchestrated. But now, the people of the market, those who had once listened, once admired, saw something different. They no longer looked at him the same way. In silence, the illusion had begun to fracture, and when a mask begins to crack, sooner or later, it will shatter. The power of a question. Why it leaves the narcissist exposed. A narcissist doesn't live by truth, but by impression. The impression they create in the eyes of others. To them, what matters most isn't their inner substance, but how they are perceived. That's why they put so much effort into crafting an ideal image. A flawlessly kind person, a wise advisor, or a superior being who is always right and trustworthy. But beneath that polished exterior lie hidden expectations. They want to be praised, admired, obeyed, or at the very least, never questioned. And it is at that very point of vulnerability, a seemingly simple question becomes a sharp instrument. When you ask, "What do you get out of this?" You're not merely asking about the action. You're touching the motivation, the real reason hidden beneath the mask. It's a question that's difficult to dodge, impossible to answer vaguely, unless the person is honest with themselves. For sincere individuals, this question creates no pressure. They can respond naturally and clearly. "I learned something new." "I felt joy in helping someone." Or, "I feel I've grown as a person." These answers come from self-reflection and honesty. They do not need to pretend. But for the narcissist, the situation is entirely different. Their image is built on concealment and denial. They are not used to having their true motives examined, because doing so risks cracking the very mask they've spent a lifetime preserving. And so, they are caught in a dilemma when faced with this question. If they respond with, "I don't get anything out of it," it's a lie. Because every action they take serves a purpose, no matter how cleverly disguised. But if they truthfully admit that they act to be praised, to control, or to feel powerful, they've exposed themselves completely. No matter which way they turn, the illusion begins to fracture. They may try to maintain composure and use polished language to shift the narrative, but their eyes, tone, or hesitation will always give them away. And that is exactly why this question is so effective. It doesn't attack, insult, or debate. It holds up a mirror gently but firmly and forces the other person to see themselves within it. For those who live in truth, it's an opportunity for deeper connection. But for those who live in illusion, it is their greatest fear, to be truly seen for who they are. The power of silence. When truth needs no justification. In the journey of recognizing and breaking free from a narcissist's influence, you don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to argue or demand fairness through heated debates. What you need, simply, is clarity. The kind of clarity that lets you see the truth without being swept away by emotions, appearances, or eloquent words carefully crafted to manipulate. Truth doesn't need to shout. It is silent, yet powerful. And when placed in the right moment, that silence can leave a narcissist powerless. They manipulate through words, through emotions, and through controlling your perception. But when you stop responding, stop explaining, and simply look at them with calm awareness, you strip away their most effective weapon, their ability to shape how you see reality. A Zen teaching says, "Darkness cannot exist without the absence of light, but once you see it clearly, it can no longer deceive you." A narcissist exists in a relationship like darkness in a room, not because they are strong, but because no one has turned on the light. And once you see the truth behind the mask, underlying insecurity, obsessive need for control, and admiration, their power over you dissolves. You no longer need to explain, justify, or seek approval. Silence is no longer a weakness at that point. It becomes an inner strength. You realize you don't need to win because you've awakened. And when the time is right, when you're grounded and steady, ask the one question that has cracked many masks. What do you get out of this? Nothing more. Let the silence that follows say the rest. Because often, what unsettles a narcissist most is not criticism, but being truly seen, without illusion, without image, without control. The power of awareness. A journey back to yourself. The true value of the question, "What do you get out of this?" isn't in forcing the narcissist to admit the truth. They rarely do. Narcissists are skilled at avoiding reality. They may spend their entire lives protecting their constructed image, even lying to themselves to avoid facing their inner emptiness. Expecting them to change, apologize, or acknowledge harm only creates prolonged suffering. The real power of the question lies elsewhere. It's not about changing them. It's about awakening you. When you ask it, you're not waiting for their answer. You're inviting yourself to see things. It pulls back the veil of manipulation, helping you see reality as it is. Many people have felt drained by loving, working with, or living alongside narcissists. They argue, explain, forgive, and hope things will change. But that's an illusion. Wisdom teaches us something simpler and far more freeing. You cannot change the nature of a snake with kind words. No matter how logical or gentle you are, the snake remains a snake. And if you fail to see that, you'll continue to get bitten again and again. When you finally recognize the truth, you stop expecting anything different from them. You stop needing to win. You simply walk away, not with bitterness, but with clarity. You leave, avoid the bite, and begin the journey of healing. What narcissists fear most is that moment, the moment you truly see them. Because their entire identity depends on controlling how others perceive them, they don't live by truth, but by a carefully curated image of brilliance, power, or fear. So when you ask, "What do you get out of this?" you unknowingly shatter that mask. The question becomes a mirror, clear, unfiltered, and a narcissist who's lived their whole life managing appearances cannot look into that mirror for long. No matter how they answer, by deflecting, denying, or appearing noble, something slips through. A flicker of unease, a moment of hesitation, a crack in the performance. Because you're not just asking a question, you're reaching the root. And from that moment on, they lose their grip on you. You're no longer a puppet in their psychological game. You've awakened. And awakening is what those who live in illusion fear the most. Detaching emotionally. The key to freedom. One of the hardest parts of dealing with a narcissist isn't intellectual, it's emotional, especially for kind, sincere people with open hearts. They hope that beneath the hurtful behavior, there's still something genuine. But the painful truth is that narcissists don't love the way you love. They don't connect through emotion, but through control, attention, and benefit. Buddhism teaches, suffering arises from clinging to illusion. When you expect love from someone who only knows manipulation, you're like someone waiting for water from a dry well. When you seek honesty from someone who thrives on deception, you trap yourself in endless pain. The suffering doesn't come from them, but from the hope you place in them. Wisdom is not trying to change the narcissist. You can't. They only change if they want to, and they rarely do. Real wisdom is changing how you see them. When you see them for who they are, not who you wish they were, you begin to let go. And in that letting go, your inner freedom is reborn. Silent victory. Winning without a fight. In Zen, there's a profound concept. The highest victory is won without conflict. This applies deeply when dealing with a narcissist. You don't need to expose them in front of others. You don't need to win arguments or prove you're right in conversations they're trained to manipulate. Wisdom is recognizing the truth and quietly taking action. No drama, no bitterness, but with firmness. If they're a friend, silently withdraw your trust. If they're a partner, set clear boundaries. If they're a leader, stop following blindly. If they're family, reduce emotional dependency and keep a safe distance. This doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It's the action of someone protecting their inner peace, a form of self-love at its highest level. Learning where to place your energy, a lesson in growth. One of the deepest lessons from being hurt by a narcissist is learning to ask yourself, where am I placing my time, energy, and love? You realize not everyone deserves the fullness of your heart. Not every relationship is worth fighting for or sacrificing yourself. Narcissists feed on attention, whether it's praise or conflict, love or anger. It fuels their need for control. They don't care if the response is good or bad, as long as you react. That's how they maintain power. But when you withdraw your energy, When you stop explaining, stop chasing, stop reacting, you reclaim your freedom. They may feel destabilized, but they begin to return to your inner center. You start to choose where your care truly belongs. And that's when you grow, not because you defeated someone, but because you finally understood yourself.